I am an addict and I don't want to like hide this shit. I didn't want to be sick anymore. I just wanted to tell my truth. If I tell my truth, will I be an outcast? Will I be accepted? I kind of was like, I just need to get this out. I've made tons of mistakes, but those also turned into learning moments. They turned into maybe a song or maybe the thing that I needed to share about in a 12-step meeting that saved someone's life. I don't know. All of these mistakes, all of this pain eventually finds its way into purpose. When we can show others that we can be raw, it inspires.
You've been so successful throughout your career with your music, and it's an interesting hearing those stories of the struggle and the ups and the downs and the battle with that, and then looking at your catalog in terms of music. And it was crazy. I was going through all your songs, going back through the years, and I'm looking at the numbers on these fucking records, and I'm thinking fucking 1.4 billion views, 500 million views, 200 million views, and huge numbers. The records they feel timeless when I listen to them. There's a real talent there, which, you know, when I think about the struggle you've been through, then I look at the back catalogue of the work you've produced from an artistic standpoint. I'm asking myself, what's the relationship here? Mm-hmm. Like, has your struggles played into the music, or has your struggles sort of taken away from the music and your potential? Like, what is the relationship, and what has music been throughout that struggle to you?
It's a great question. And it's honestly a question that I think about too. Like I've kind of asked myself that same question in the last 48 hours. I don't know if I have an answer. I believe that it's all panned out the way that it's supposed to be. Has drugs and alcohol affected me being prolific? Absolutely. It's taken away work ethic in moments. It's taken away seasons, years of time where I could have been focused, where I could have been building momentum, but instead I chose the path of instant gratification. And we were talking about this last night. There's one of my mentors and OGs in my 12-step program, or one of them. Her name was Rita, and she had this business card that she used to give out to people. And it said that her greatest regret in life is trading in what she wanted in the bigger picture for what she wanted in that moment. And I always think about my life in that way of, is this what I want for the greater good, for my story to be, or am I acting at a place of desire? Am I acting at a place of wanting to change the way that I feel right now, knowing that that will hinder me? That's not really what I want. What place am I coming from? And weighing those. And I think for a lot of my life, it was, no, I want this right now. And that oftentimes is a destructive pattern, whether it was sex or with drugs or, whatever, of trading in what I truly wanted, what I truly believed to be the truth. Because my truth is that I am the best version of myself when I am clear, when I am silent enough to be able to be a conduit to something that is outside of my understanding. I couldn't even put it into words. It's that magic that happens in the studio where all of a sudden you're almost removed from the pen that's writing the song. And, I choose to call it God, but that God presence, that being is absolutely moving through me. I've never been able to feel that without a spiritual practice. Music has always been a spiritual practice for me. But I think that it's made me who I am. I've made tons of mistakes. And since I've been famous, I made tons of mistakes that were influenced by the drugs that I was doing, or, the positions that I got myself in. But those also turned into learning moments. That turned into maybe a song, or maybe a conversation, or maybe the thing that I needed to share about in a 12-step meeting that saved someone's life. I don't know. But I know that I'm here. I know that I'm here for a reason. I know that my catalog is something that I'm super proud of. And, beyond the numbers, it's like, last night driving from Birmingham into London, I listened to Ben, my new album. I hadn't had that moment for a while of listening to my album in its entirety, because you're working so hard on it. There's so many nuanced things. It's like you can't even just enjoy it. And I sat in the car and I listened to it all the way through. And it's the best feeling to be like, you know what, I worked really hard on something, and all of these little moments, all of these mistakes, all of this pain eventually finds its way into purpose. And I think that that's an artist's highest form, is to be able to take pain and repurpose it into purpose.
What is giving you that, or like you described that moment in the studio where you're clear and you're almost channeling something, your higher creativity, whatever that is. Have you been able to figure out what it is that causes those moments of clarity and focus and stability? And then on the other side of the coin, what causes the chaos in our lives, the instability? Is
Yes.
there any causal factors?
Yes. For me, it is exercise. It's getting outside. It's like actually cardio. It is being of service to other people. It is a spiritual practice. It is coming from faith rather than fear. It is thinking about ourselves less and others more. It is being still in the studio, not thinking about what is this going to do for the world, but just actually being present and removing the ego, which is what all of those things help facilitate, right? Like when we're of service, when we work out, when we show up, when we're at peace, when we think about ourselves less, we're removing the ego. I'm stripping it away. It's a process of excavation. And the opposite is when I'm thinking about, okay, what if this song doesn't work at radio? What if this, what if TikTok doesn't, do the challenge? What if, whatever it is, when I'm future surfing, thinking about the outcome rather than enjoying the process. The process is where the magic happens. The rest of it, for all of the records that I've ever put out, there has never been a moment of any calculation that has worked. Doesn't work. The records that I've been like, oh yeah, this is gonna be the one, those are the ones with like 2 million views on YouTube. And the ones that I'm like, who knows, those are the ones with, that really affected culture, that really like got out there, and, the world knows these songs 10, 11 years later, or 5 years later, or whatever it is. I think that intention in the studio is so important, because even if I put out a new album that doesn't stream as well as the last one, or whatever it is, that's not my metric. If I am basing my identity around those numbers and those metrics, I will always be disappointed. My bucket will always be half full. And if I'm basing it on what was the intention, what am I actually trying to get at? The music is gonna hit who it hits. It was already written. I just have to get out of the way. When I try to control, hang on, when I try to play puppet master, that's when I become miserable. And I'm not effective at my job.
So 2 questions here then on that basis. I'm sure people ask you what your favorite record is or whatever. I'm not really interested in that. I know it's like choosing your favorite children or whatever, and they're all different for various reasons. But in terms of the most important record you think you've ever recorded, the one that you believe has benefited others, the world, the most, irrespective of performance metrics, what is that record and why?
It's 2 records. It's Same Love,
yeah,
and Other Side.
Interesting.
And I think Same Love is the obvious answer, because it came out at a time where we, as I'll speak for America, but kind of even more, it came out at a time in America where we were having this conversation around legalizing gay marriage, where there was a shift. There's a cultural shift, and that song became something bigger than me. It became a moment for a movement towards equality. And as a songwriter, as an artist, as someone that prides himself on the pen and the ways that it can move spirit, that's up there. That has to be one. Or number two, the other one is Other Side. And Other Side is a record that not as many people know, but it is one that, it was kind of the first, it was the first record I wrote when I got out of treatment. And it was that, I am literally not even here right now. I'm just trying to be silent enough in my own head to just let this magic happen. But it talked about the disease of addiction for the first time. And I kind of was like, I just need to get this out. I don't know. I am an addict and I don't want to like hide this shit. And I know it's not cool. I know it's not going to sell more records. I know it's not what anyone else is talking about. I know it's not what my favorite rappers are talking about, but I am an addict and I have to be sober. And I need to let whoever was listening to me at the time, the 2,000 fans that I had, I needed to let them know that this is who I was. And, it said that we're only as sick as our secrets. I didn't want to be sick anymore. I just wanted to tell my truth. And that was the record to do it. And what I watched happen after that, I'll never forget. People coming to the shows, 6 people, 12 people, 14 people in recovery coming because they heard Other Side, and it changed their life. And I know what that feels like as someone on the other end of it whose life was changed so many times by the music that I was listening to. And yeah, it's those two. Those are the ones.
I listened to Drug Dealer earlier, and I listened to it, but then I looked at the comments section, and it is like, it's profound. It's profound that the second comment on that video is from a recovering heroin addict who's crying while they're watching that video because it's making them feel heard, seen, and understood in a really profound way. And every comment was like that. Every comment was speaking to like the liberating and therapeutic impact that song was having on thousands and thousands of people. It's a really profound thing. It's almost, it's a lot, isn't it? In terms of, you talked about those people coming to your show, the 7, the 10, the 12. Has that ever felt like, and this is a strange word to use, but has that ever felt like an emotional weight at all? Because you're hearing these stories. I sat with Jordan Peterson, in fact, and he talked about how people coming up to him and telling them about their own journeys and their own emotional path to recovery or healing can sometimes feel like an emotional weight. It's a lot to carry.
I feel the opposite.
Really?
I feel connection. It connects me to the art because I'm not in the same place that I was in 2009 when I wrote that song. Mm-hmm. My life looks very different. I think when I hear people say that they were moved or they were transformed or that they felt some inspiration or, whatever it is, for one, it's an opportunity, and I think that maybe this is where Jordan and I differ, is that I'm an addict, this person coming up to me is an addict, and there's an immediate connection there that I can't describe. I don't know what it is, but it's just like, oh, you got the same, oh my God, we had the same thing. How are you doing with your journey? How are you doing with yours? And it's not a weight, it's more like, thank you for, the meet and greet of thank you so much, appreciate it, thank you so much. Like that's a weight. That's just going through the motions. The actual moments of people telling me those things when I'm like, okay, let's pause. Like we don't need to get through the line so fast. Let's, we'll get to the hotel when we get to the hotel. Let me be present with this person because this conversation is changing my life. I'm reminded why I wrote that record in the first place. I'm reminded of the beauty that happens when we share honestly. Like those are those moments where I'm like, thank you. That's where I feel like I am the recipient of a gift that's coming full circle, because they're reminding me of how important it is to share honestly, regardless of how it looks, regardless of how it's perceived. And I think that so much of the time there's this, well, if I tell my truth, will I be an outcast? Will I be accepted? Will I be kicked out of the tribe? Will I still be a part of? We want to be a part of. And there's this thing that happens, like what happened with your friend when you saw him finally. When you saw him not as the alcoholic that was fucking shit up in the house or messing up your life, or like, why doesn't he just stop? But you saw him in his raw state. That's raw humanity right there. And when we demonstrate that, when we can show others that we can be raw, it inspires. Because other people are like, oh, I can tell my truth too, and I'm not gonna get kicked out. Wow. Let me show up as my authentic self.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.